All right, guys. Today, one thing I want to talk about is dividing decimals. Now, I know division can be one of those things that's super scary. So today, I want to go back and talk about some of those things that we have to think about when we're dividing. Now, when we think about division, I want to think about a real life example that might happen that might require something like this. So let's say you were at a restaurant, and let's think about this as money. You were spending $43.26. That was the total bill, and you were going to split that up among six people. Say there were six friends, and you were with five of your other friends, and you were going to divide up this bill so that everybody pays the same. Now, the first thing that I do when I divide is I try to think in these cases, what would be a too low estimate and what would be a too high estimate. Now, when you're making these estimates, don't make it really difficult. Make it something quick and easy. Think about what would make sense. Now, I'll give you an example. If I were giving a too low estimate, I know I'm splitting this up with six people. What I like to do is I like to think about the inverse operation from division, which is multiplication. And I like to think, what could I multiply by this number six that would give me something close to $43? Now, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about my multiples of six. I know that if each person paid $5, that wouldn't be enough. The reason is because 6 times 5 would only give me $30, and that wouldn't be enough money paid in this bill. Same idea. I know that a too high estimate would be $10. The reason $10 would be too high is because if I took 6 times 10, that would be a total of $60, which is more than the bill is. Now, a nice reason to do a too high and a too low is because now I know the answer is going to be somewhere in between 5 and 10. It's going to be more than $5 each. It's going to be less than $10 each. I know I'm somewhere in this range. Now, when I write this out, one thing I can do is let me write this again, $43.26 divided by 6. One thing I like to do is I like to take the decimals out of this completely and think of it as a whole number. Now, one way I can do that is I can take this number $43.26 and I can move that decimal over two times. Now, if I move that decimal over two times, I have changed the problem. So we got to think about how I've changed the problem. Now, each time you shift a place value to the right, you're multiplying by 10. So because I did that twice, I multiplied by 10 twice, which is the same thing as multiplying that number by 100. So now I've made this into a whole number because my decimal's at the end. So I'm going to have 4,326 divided by 6. Now, I have changed the problem. I've made it 100 times bigger. That's okay as long as I change it back by doing the opposite operation as this one in the end. And we'll talk about that in just a few moments. So at this point, we have 4,326 divided by 6. Now, when we're doing division, we want to think of this division symbol generally. And we're thinking 4,326 divided by 6. Now, one thing that generally helps people when they're dividing is to think about multiples of this number right here. So I'm just going to go over to the side and I'm going to write down some multiples of 6. In other words, that's just like counting by that number. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. And the most you'll ever have to write down is 9 multiples because that's the most we can fit in a place value. But I'm just going to write 6 for right now. We might need more, we might need less, we'll see. So the first thing I'm going to see here is my place value. And I'm going to just put a marker up here to represent my thousands, my hundreds, my tens, and my ones. Now, the first thing I notice is that I have 4,000s and I have 6 groups. That tells me that there's no possible way I could fit 1,000 into each group, because even if I put a 1,000 in each group, that would mean we would have to have 6,000s, 1,000 times 6 groups. So that's not possible. So I know this first digit here can't have a value. It has to be 0. Now, what I have then next is I have 43, and I want to think about the place value. I have 4,300s. Now, if I'm splitting 4,300s into 6 groups, I have to decide how many hundreds can I put in each group. Well, I'm going to think of these multiples over here to the side as that multiple. So this would be the first multiple, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Now, if I put 100 into each group, that would only be 600s, but I have 4300s. I can put many more than that. As you can see, my number down to 36 doesn't quite go far enough, so I'm going to add one additional there that goes to 42, and then I'm going to add another additional that goes to, sorry, not 49. I was thinking of sevens. That goes to 48, and I'm going to say that's the 7th and the 8th multiple. Now, we can't split up more hundreds than we have. So the closest we can get to 4300s without going over is 4200s, which means that I can put 7, and notice we have that 7th multiple labeled there in each group. And if I split up 700s into each group, then I have split up 4200s, which means I have 100 left. 100 left. I can't split it up into 6 groups because there's 6 groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm then going to look at the tens place. I have 12 tens, 12 tens. Now I'm looking over to the side again at my multiples. I see my first multiple. If I put 1 10 in each group, that would just be 6 tens. If I put 2 10s in each group, that would be 12 tens. So I'm going to put 2 10s in each group. 2 times 6 is 12. I have completely split up all 12 of those tens, which means I have none left. Now, the only thing I do still have left is my 6 ones. I have 6 groups. I have 6 ones. And as you can see over here, this is kind of helpful. That means I can put 1 1 in each group. And let's see that in black. I can do 1 1 in each group, which is going to be splitting up 6 total, which leaves me with none. Now, at this point, I have this answer of 721. Now, in the beginning, I had already decided, let's go back here, that this number was going to be somewhere bigger than 5, but less than 10. And you'll notice 721 is nowhere close to that. So we got to remember the fact that I had earlier multiplied this by 100. So here I'm just going to do the opposite, and I'm going to take this answer and divide it by 100. Remember, if it's a whole number, the decimal is going to be here on the end. To divide by 100, we're going to move the decimal back twice. It's like dividing by 10 twice. And we're going to get this total of $7.21, which makes sense because it's between our low estimate and high estimate. It's between 5 and 10. And also, it makes sense that each person would pay a little over $7. So I want you to try to follow these steps, see if you can make sense of these steps, and see if you can divide decimals by using this strategy.